this episode,
we look ahead to Captain Black's impending visit.
we're visited by an elf, but not the Christmassy kind.
Chris has a meeting with the good captain.
And, oh, what's this? Fab Facts is back.
Hooray! And that's all coming up in Pod 73.
Of the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gerry Anderson Podcast, a weekly podcast coming to you from my office and Richard's spare room. My name is Jamie Anderson and I'm sitting here with Richard James, and once again we've gathered round the microphones with all sorts of Gerry Anderson goodness, and in the usual order, here we go.
Whoa, hey, Jamie, what on earth is going on?
I just thought I'd try a new intro.
Yeah, well,
a new
why?
kind of welcome. Well, Richard,
Yeah.
I mean, the fact you're asking me this means that you are not a listener of the No Such Thing as a Fish podcast. Is that right?
No, I'm afraid I'm not, no.
Well, Richard, if you were a listener of that, you would know that that is the standard intro as given by Dan Schreiber, who hosts that, and occasionally that intro is given by Alex Bell.
Aha.
And Alex is our interviewee this week.
Oh, that is clever, Jamie. I see what you did now.
You see,
Very
it's
good.
clever, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yes, Alex Bell is one of the QI elves.
Aha.
And for those who don't know what QI is, it is a panel show on the BBC. It used to be hosted by Stephen Fry. It's now hosted by Sally Toksvig.
Mm-hmm.
And they give you kind of random crazy facts and questions and interesting stuff. Quite interesting.
Yeah.
And they are backed up by a team of elves who are the people who look up those facts and find the interesting stuff. No Such Thing as a Fish is a spin-off podcast from that. It's really good. I heartily recommend it. Great entertainment, really interesting stuff.
Oh, okay, nice.
And I discovered that Alex was a Gerry Anderson fan, so I got in touch. And yeah.
Cool.
And now we're going to have 2 chats with him.
Fantastic. And another sort of a younger fan again, which is always nice to hear, isn't it?
I believe Alex is 27.
Oh,
so
dare you, that's disgraceful.
disgusting.
How could anyone
isn't
be
it?
that young?
Well, but isn't it nice that there are people who are that age who love Gerry Anderson
Of
stuff?
course. Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
It spans all generations, as we know.
Yes, as do many of our listeners, the lovely Podstrons. So
And as
welcome
do-
along, Podstrons.
Yes, and as do you and I.
Oh, no, Richard, we could be brothers.
Okay, moving along. So here we are with the Gerry Anderson podcast. We're here for the next hour or so with lots of bits and pieces. We've got, well, of course, Chris Dale's randomizer will be with us a little later on. I shall be
Yes.
heading to Twitter and Facebook to see what people have been talking about, because people have been hashtagging us Gerry Anderson podcast, and they also have been posting on our Facebook listeners group, which is facebook.com/groups/podsterons.
Yeah.
So we'll be coming back to that a little bit later on. And also, the most amazing part of the show, of course, the plot of peril is back.
It is, again.
Yeah.
But also, Richard, the other most amazing part of the show, which is back, is Fab Facts.
What? What?
Yeah. So we were resting Fab Facts for a bit.
Yeah.
Slight change of format for Fab Facts going forward. But I've kind of missed it.
Yeah.
And I think you have too a little bit.
In
haven't
a
you?
strange sort of way, yeah. You know,
Yeah.
like you miss a pain when it's gone. It somehow feels odd.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
crick in my neck that I've had for the last few days. And
when it goes, it's
suddenly
like,
gone. It's like, what? Yeah.
Yeah, I've missed it in that sort of way.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's bring it back then.
What?
So,
right
should
now?
we have it now?
Shall we?
Yes.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Here it is.
Well, that means I've got to let the band in. Guys, how lovely to see you. Look at you. You're looking well, aren't you? You lost weight. Take a seat. That's fantastic. Right.
It's that music
Yeah.
which everyone has missed.
Oh, how lovely.
Now, traditionally, Richard, I've had a book of Fab Facts which I've flicked through,
Yes.
and you've shouted Fab,
Yes.
right?
That's right.
And that's how we've chosen the fact.
yeah.
Well, this time, we're not going from the publicly available book of Fab Facts, but instead from a special book of Fab Facts which I have created.
In your brain.
No.
Oh, an actual book.
Yeah, it's here.
Look.
And it's big. There are a lot of facts in here.
Yeah, great.
Now, so Richard, are you ready?
Yeah.
We're going to flick through this larger book, so you might want to leave it a little bit longer before you shout, possibly, but
Take a bit more time. Yeah.
here we go.
Fab! Oh, do you know, I have
Right.
missed that, actually. That felt really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can shout Fab anytime. But
Thanks.
now, Richard, you have landed in a particular era of Gerry Anderson Productions. In fact, the era immediately preceding UFO.
Right.
So did you know that just during the early development phases of UFO, Richard, there was the potential that after the sort of success of Doppelganger,
Yeah.
that Dad was going to get involved in producing another feature film.
Ah.
And that feature film was going to be called Youth is Wasted on the Young.
Right.
Have you heard of this before?
No, I have not.
Okay, so it's kind of a sci-fi political thriller type thing. And it's really interesting how it links into kind of the science and news zeitgeist of the era that also led to a lot of the themes you saw in UFO.
Yeah, sure.
So Dad was going to work with a well-known TV and I guess movie writer, Wilfred Greatorex.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, do you know where you may have heard his stuff or seen his stuff? He created some TV shows in the 60s and 70s and wrote a lot of episodic
Right.
bits and
Well,
pieces.
let's Google him. Let's see.
Yeah, an interesting guy. But basically the story of this thing was that an aging dictator in South America kind of gets his claws into a young guy who is twisted and manipulated into believing that he is a great supporter of this man. Mm-hmm. And then in the middle of the film, the dictator's brain is transplanted into this guy so that the dictator can carry on and hand down as a perceived way to this guy who's a great supporter of his.
I see.
But it was kind of all surrounding brain transplants. Now, of course, at the time, it was all about heart transplants.
Yes.
And it was heart transplants, too, that got Dad and the team interested in the idea of aliens coming to steal our organs
Oh.
to prolong their lives and keep themselves going.
How interesting. I see.
Yeah.
Very of the time. That's extraordinary. And how far did he get? Is there a script? Was there a script?
Yes, there is a script, which is in the BFI archive. We must at some point try and get hold of that, because it's very exciting.
Yeah.
But it got to first draft stage.
Yeah.
There were allegedly some problems in the scripting and the plotting.
Yeah.
And by that time, they got quite far into the development of UFO. And so it was either go with something which Lou Graders agreed to finance, or go with something which may not get made and has some problems at script stage.
Yes.
So they went with UFO.
Well, how interesting.
And Youth is Wasted on the Young was never made.
No, gosh. Well,
So there we go.
I mean, that is a worthy fact for the return of Fab Facts.
We've set the bar quite high,
Really
haven't we?
have. I mean, I'm looking forward to the next week.
Yeah.
Maybe I could take that idea, actually, and make a play out of it, like I did with Fat of the
Off the
Land.
Fat of the Land. I mean, but isn't it amazing? And I'll tell you what, there is another... Actually, I've got a Fab fact for next week, which I might just use without you shouting Fab. This is a little secret thing for listeners to the Gerry Anderson podcast, and anyone who listens to this bit on YouTube or wherever it is.
Yeah.
I found a previously forgotten Gerry Anderson show, which he created in the early 2000s, which I didn't even really know existed, but
Yeah.
I've got a full Bible for it, and it's great.
Really?
Yeah.
Come
But
on.
We'll leave that for a future week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Nice.
So, Youth is Wasted on the Young. What a fascinating fact. And that brings us to the end of the return with this week's Film Fact.
Wow.
Nailed it.
I
Nailed
like
it.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes. Very
Aren't you
good.
glad Fab Facts is back
Well,
now?
I kind of am glad that Fab. I think we all are, really.
Yeah. Are you listeners? Do let us know. Tweet us, # Gerry Anderson Podcast, and you can tag either of us.
Richard N. James or I'm Jamie Anderson.
Yeah, I just can't say I'm Jamie Anderson. It sounds so weird. I know that is right. It's a fact.
That's
but
right.
Yeah,
that's
weird.
great. Now, talking about UFO as we were just then, over on Twitter, Gordon Cooper got in touch to say, can anyone explain poor Ed Bishop's regrettable hairstyle in UFO? Is there a story behind it? Did he ever express an opinion about it? Ed Bishop's hair. I mean,
his wig.
It was a wig and then it wasn't a wig. That's right, isn't it? Or it wasn't and then it was. I think at one
I'm not
point-
sure. I'm not sure about the transition point from
Yeah.
wig to wig not.
And we're not
Wig
sure.
not.
No. What he thought about it either. Don't know.
I mean, I think he was just doing a job and they thought it was a cool look and he went with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there we are.
I can't really talk about wigs. So
No.
sorry, Richard, do carry on.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes, the Gerry Anderson podcast. Now, do please subscribe to us on whichever platform you're listening to us on. Rate us and review us and share us with your friends so they can get to hear us too. Email us at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. Oh, post on our Facebook page. Hashtag us on Twitter, Gerry Anderson Podcast, and we'll see all your comments there. And I think it's time for some rather special news, isn't it, Jamie?
Is it special?
It's always special.
I mean, it's very merch heavy, but it is newsy news. So let's hear it. Here we go, Richard.
Aha!
It's, what is it?
It's newsy news.
Good. Okay, it's the Gerry Anderson news. As usual, we've got quite a lot this week, perhaps surprisingly.
Yeah.
I think I alluded to this last week, but we had that warehouse find.
Yeah.
And there's some UFO posters.
Yeah.
Well, I'd actually not realised how awesome the UFO poster is that has been found in Network Distributing's warehouse.
Right.
So there's a couple of hundred in stock, but they are selling like hotcakes or whatever the...
Radiation rods.
Sailing like radiation rods. Nice. Thank you for that. So it's a double-sided poster, and back in the 70s there were bubblegum cards which were drawn by Ron Embleton, the same guy who did the Captain Scarlet end title cards. Beautiful art. And if you collected the wrappers from the bubblegum and sent in to the bubblegum company, you could then get a poster, a full art piece, which was done by Gerry Anderson, Ron's brother.
Lovely.
And so you could collect all the bubblegum cards, and then, by getting all those different things, you could also then send off for the poster. Great. Mm-hmm. But they're really hard to come by, the full sets, and the posters are even harder. But this is both. It's the mosaic of all the bubblegum cards on one side and the poster on the other. So they're pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
And when they were given away with the original UFO Blu-ray DVD, they were folded up in a little envelope, so they were all creased. But now they're rolled, so you can display them.
Lovely.
And currently, there's a bundle deal on the Gerry Anderson store where you can get 2 of the posters, 25% off, so you can display both sides, should you wish to do that.
Well, of course you would. Great.
There you go. Nice. So pop along and search UFO poster at shop.gerryanderson.co.uk. And while you're there, the other half of that warehouse find was some more of the special edition, I think, universe number 243 of TV21. Back from, when was that released? 2014, I think? Which was, again, thought sold out. And we found another stack of those, as well as some Supermarination postcards. There's a bundle offer for that.
Yeah, great.
It's getting chilly, Richard.
It is. It is.
Well, my heating wasn't working, and we had to get it repaired.
I know, yeah.
Did I whinge about that? Well, don't worry, because when you're over tonight for Fab Live, which we'll talk about in a minute, it'll be nice and cosy and toasty. Yeah, of course. In your honour, we'll turn the heating right up. But there's a lot of warm weather wear on the way. I know Chris Thompson has recently been working on a hoodie.
Oh, of course. What? I mean, why did it take so long to get one of those?
I don't know. Isn't that weird?
Yes.
A hoodie seems obvious. But there's loads of other warm weather wear, including woolly hats and zip hoodies and jumpers and sweatshirts and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So pop along and have a look there.
Now, I have to say, Jamie, if I may, the Gerry Anderson store really is unique, isn't it? In that any profits that you make get ploughed straight back into your various projects and forthcoming things from Anderson Entertainment. Is that not correct?
That is correct, Richard.
So by buying even the smallest thing, a pin badge or something like a hoodie or a poster, you're actually actively taking part in the Gerry Anderson story and future projects.
Yes, you are directly contributing to the Gerry Anderson legacy. It feels like we're doing a bit of a hard sell here.
No.
You really are, because there's things like, all the stuff that we do, the website, the YouTube channel, all of our social media stuff, the podcast, all that sort of stuff, plus all the development of old bits and pieces, things like the Space Precinct Reloaded comic, any books that we do, any kind of product development, that's all funded pretty much by the Gerry Anderson store. Yeah. So it's thanks to you, our lovely listeners and customers and stuff, that we can do what we do. So thank you. Thanks for the plug, Richard.
No, not at all.
We mentioned in the intro that Captain Black is coming. Now, of course, that's for Captain Black Friday.
Oh, I see. Yes,
which is coming up at the end of November.
Okay.
Massive sales coming up, and if you want to be the first to know about the products that are being sold off at ridiculous discounts and get special offers that nobody else will get, there is a Captain Black Friday priority list sign up on the Gerry Anderson website. Just head to gerryanderson.co.uk and you'll see a link there for the Captain Black Friday priority list. Sign up there and you'll get some stuff before Captain Black Friday launches, and you'll be the first to get a chance to grab some ridiculous bargains.
Nice.
Now, again, we've mentioned the YouTube channel very briefly. One of the things that we work on that's kind of supported by all the activity from the Gerry Anderson store Chris Dale has been on holiday, would you believe? How dare he?
But, hang on a minute, you're saying that the shop is funding Chris Dale's holiday?
No, I'm not saying that. Chris Dale funds Chris Dale's holiday, but Chris Dale's been on holiday, so we haven't had a primer for a couple of weeks,
Fair
but
enough.
Chris is back to working on his primers. There's a few more to come. Lavender Castle, I think.
Right.
What else is due to come? There's not very much. New Captain Scarlet.
Yeah.
Dick Spanner.
Yeah.
Maybe something about the Lost Worlds. Anyway, there's more of those on the way. And again, I've been seeing lots of people saying, oh, I'd forgotten about the show, didn't know about the show. I'm going to go and watch it with my kids. Just lovely to see. And there's also some Terrorhawks audio episodes coming out for free there, as well as a lot of clips from various documentaries courtesy of Network Distributing. So thank you, Network, for that. Plenty of stuff to come, and now some Fab Facts coming as well. Week on week, so do share those with each other.
Now, talking of Fab Facts, Jamie, Chris Dale actually posted on our Facebook page. This is a randomizer-related fab-ish fact, he says. With Pod 72, which was last week, the total randomizer content from across the podcast so far runs for 24 hours back-to-back. In fact, 24 hours, 1 minute and 59 seconds to be exact. What a lot of waffle, he said. So there you go.
What a lot of waffle.
You've got 24 hours worth of randomizers to listen to.
Goodness me. Right, so basically 24 hours per 72 episodes, approximately.
Right. Yeah.
So, I don't think how many hours of randomizer content we're actually going to come up with overall, but well done, Chris.
Yes.
And Richard, would you like to deliver the final bit of news for tonight?
Well,
Today?
I will, yes. Well, it is about tonight. So this evening at 7 o'clock sees our 20-something, Facebook Live broadcast. This is our opportunity to interact with you and see your comments and to read out your emails and show your art and pictures and so on. It's a Facebook Live broadcast, but also we're available to view on YouTube and Twitch and Periscope. So do go over to the official Gerry Anderson places, the Facebook page and the Twitter account and so on.
That's what we call them collectively, the Gerry Anderson places.
Exactly. And from 7 p.m. tonight, you can see us live. Now, if there's anything that you'd like us to read out, or if you've got some pictures of any merchandise, or you and your wonderful cosplay, or you've just got any thoughts you want to share with us, do drop us a line at fablive@gerryanderson.co.uk. Try and give us a bit of time, any time before sort of 4 or 5, we could probably pick up an email.
Before 4, I'd say.
Exactly. But do join us tonight and comment along, and we'll see your comments and we'll answer your questions and we'll have a bit of fun.
Yeah. Well, speaking of answering questions, we're going to do some new YouTube stuff around answering your questions, your burning desires. No, not burning desires, your burning questions.
Yes, that's a bit better.
And hopefully, feeding your desires.
Great.
Perhaps.
Great.
So if you want to suggest any questions that you would like us to answer, anything about Gerry Anderson stuff, past, present or future, then you can tweet us with the hashtag AskAnderson.
Oh, great.
And those will hopefully make it into some videos and stuff in the next few weeks.
Yeah, lovely.
That, though, is definitely now the end of this week's glorious and merch-packed Gerry Anderson news.
That was the news! That was the news!
Goodness me, Richard.
All right, I had to go for it, so I had to walk away from the mic a bit.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, fine
Well
voice
done.
today. Now, over on our Facebook page, Stephen Carson wrote, inspired by the end of the recent road trip podcast, which lots of people seem to enjoy last week at Elstree, I hear that Richard James's new podcast item is Toilet Talk or Bathroom Banter, where he corners Gerry Anderson-related interviewees in public conveniences. That could get me into a lot of trouble, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't pursue
Careful.
that. Yeah. And Lincoln posted, this is interesting. It was a lovely day at the Royal Albert Hall earlier in the year.
Yes, it was great, wasn't it?
It was. Lincoln says, just a note for those that were not able to catch a full-size orchestra playing Thunderbirds in London, as they did, the Space Spectacular hits Manchester, in fact the Bridgewater Hall, on November the 16th, and we are reliably informed that it will be on the programme. So why don't you just... if you're in and around Manchester, Google the Space Spectacular at Bridgewater Hall on November 16th, and I'm sure you can follow a link there and book yourself some tickets. It was a fantastic afternoon, wasn't it?
It was lovely.
Robert Taylor as well. It was lovely.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
Very nice, Richard. Well, I suppose we should possibly look at your special shiny device, shouldn't we?
I mean, I've made the effort to wheel it in.
Okie dokie.
Fantastic.
Then, let's have the plot device.
Let's just take the thing off. Okay, there we are.
You managed to not knock me in the face this week like
Sorry
you did
about
last
that.
time.
I've tied that lever up a bit so it's not quite so dangly.
Good.
So yes, this is the plot device for my favourite part of the show, which is the plot of peril. This gives you, dear listeners, the opportunity to write your own Gerry Anderson adventure. So, if you remember last week, I gave you 3 things. I gave you a character of Destiny Angel from Captain Scarlet. My random object was a foot pump. And the location was Stonehenge.
Yes.
Would you like to hear some of our more interesting entries?
I prefer those to the less interesting ones, yes.
Well, over on Twitter, Simpsons Clips 24 said, roving reporter Simpsons Clips 24 here with this week's plot of peril. I'm at Stonehenge, where I could see one of the Spectrum organisation's Angel aircraft has crash-landed, and Destiny Angel has now resorted to using a foot pump to repair the craft's landing gear.
Nice.
It could actually happen.
That works.
I can see that. Simon Allen, on our Facebook page, said Destiny Angel is on leave and is helping out Professor Archie Leach and his assistant Grant at their archaeological dig at Stonehenge. The wind is getting up and Professor Leach remarks that the wind is particularly notorious in this area and is blowing north by northwest. Can you see what he's doing here, Jamie? Suddenly the wind picks up a foot pump, which flies across and knocks Grant on the head. Destiny and the Professor have to carry Grant to safety and try to take shelter from the storm. Destiny calls to Cloud Base for help, and a couple of hours later Captain Blue turns up in an SPV. He apologises for being late, as he took some wrong turns from a local, and states that you just hate backwards seat drivers.
Oh.
But
hilarious.
The winner this week, Big Al, Alex Pass. The Mysterons threaten to destroy Stonehenge. Fortunately, Destiny Angel is able to thwart their plans by jetting over to Salisbury and inflating a decoy stone circle using a foot pump.
Nice.
There we go. So that's this week's winner. Not that you win anything at all.
No, just
Apart from a sense of pride.
kudos.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Can you imagine how long it would take to pump up a fake Stonehenge inflatable with a foot pump?
Yes, that would take a while.
She'd have some pretty powerful thigh muscles after that, I would
Well,
think.
I have heard. You'd also, in terms of the show, you'd have to cut away to some other action, wouldn't you, while she was doing that? And they'd sort of come back to her every now and then.
With some dramatic Barry Gray music. I'm thinking like the Trapped in the Sky runway music.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a leak. Anyway, I was about to say, would you like to hear from the plot device this week's 3 items? Of course you would like to hear.
Got no choice,
Right,
Richard.
no, exactly. Right, so let's pull the lever. So here is your character for this week's plot of peril. Yeah! It's Space Precinct Captain Podley. Right, your random everyday object. Yeah! It's a cheese grater. And
Ouch.
finally, your location. Yeah! Oh, Buckingham Palace.
Cool.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, Podsterons, is to construct a coherent Gerry Anderson-style adventure featuring Captain Podley, a cheese grater, and Buckingham Palace. Over to you.
Good luck, Podsterons. Yes, if you'd like to submit that plot of peril to us, then please send it in to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, or put it on the Facebook group, or tweet us, or get it to us some other way. I don't know how else they might
Smoke
do it.
signals. Come round, knock at the door. I mean, most people know where I live.
Yes, Richard's address is...
I'll just meet in the King's Arms.
Oh, yeah. Pop down to the pub and give him your plot of peril there. No, thank you all for humouring Richard and for playing along.
Yes, thank you.
We do really appreciate it.
You made an old man very happy.
It's always my intention. Now, Richard...
Yeah.
Unless you've got any other tweets and bits and pieces you'd
Not
like
now.
to read out.
No.
Shall we go to our feature interview this week?
Yes, please.
Okay, well, as I mentioned earlier on, our interview this week is with an elf. But not any old elf. A QI elf.
Wow.
A QI elf called Alex Bell, who operates the klaxon on QI.
Great, very important job.
Very important job, and also stands in for Dan and other members of the regular four on No Such Thing as a Fish podcast from time to time. Very nice chap. He'd been tweeting about Thunderbirds, so that's why we got in touch with him. And I had a lovely chat with him at the QI offices in Covent Garden. So, shall we hear that?
Yes, please.
Here we go.
Okay, so hi Jamie, how you doing?
I'm very good, thanks.
So yeah, I'm Alex Bell. I work for QI. I'm a QI elf, and I also work on No Such Thing as a Fish, the podcast, the QI podcast. So I'm occasionally on that, and I do a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff for that, and that's my life.
Okay, fantastic. And we do have quite a lot of American listeners, and I'm aware that they may not know what QI is, especially if you say I'm a QI elf. That means nothing to them.
I sound insane.
Can you elaborate
I've tried
slightly?
telling people that in bars, and it doesn't get a very good response at all. So QI is a British comedy panel show. It used to be hosted by Stephen Fry, and now it's hosted by Sandy Toksvig, and it also has Alan Davis on it. And it's a show that puts comedians on a panel and talks about interesting facts. So every series is based on a letter of the alphabet, and we're up to series Q now, so it's been running for nearly 20 years, and it's literally just anything that's interesting about nature or science or maths or kind of any weird facts we find out. It's all about that. It's
any interesting thing. Okay, and it's been over 20 years, but you are clearly not old enough to be here for all 20 years.
I've been here for a while, though. I've been here for nearly 8 years.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's been a long time, pretty much straight out of school.
Okay.
They get you early.
Clearly, and then you never leave.
Never allowed to leave, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And why are we talking? I mean, obviously, I am a fan of the podcast No Such Thing as a Fish and QI itself, which is why I'm aware of this place and you.
Yeah.
But you tweeted about John Tracy and Thunderbirds, is that?
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the other day. Yes, I did. Yes, yeah. So it was just a great fact that I was watching. I can't remember what I was watching, but I think it was your dad, Gerry, who was doing an interview and said that he hated John as a character, which I found quite weird because he's the creator of the show. But I guess that's how early you lose creative control of a project.
Well, yeah, he didn't like the sculpt. He didn't think it was heroic enough.
He said it was too all-American as well. And I guess because Thunderbirds obviously is a British show, but it was designed to appeal to America, right? Which is why the main family is American and everything. Okay, and he says that he didn't like anything about John Tracy, which I find, looking at John Tracy, I find surprising because he is one of the most handsome puppets I've ever seen. Which is, it's weird to be like, that's a really good-looking puppet.
Okay, do you not think Scott Tracy is more of a heroic
they're all a
face?
very good-looking family. I mean, they're all beautiful. It's obviously a sort of, classic 1960s show where every casting is, pretty, they're all incredibly attractive people.
Wholesome and top-notch genetics.
Why am I talking about the attractiveness puppets? Anyway.
We can get on to attractiveness
But he put him in the
later.
space station. That's why he's the space monitor.
Yeah.
Because he didn't like to be used in stories,
Yeah.
which is great. I also call him space monitor, which is a really degrading title.
It's like hall monitor.
Yeah,
It's a bit,
exactly.
depressing. Okay, so you clearly know something about Thunderbirds, and it's not just from that single interview that you've decided, yes, I'll happily come on this podcast.
Yeah, I'll do anything.
So just anything for attention. But assuming you've got some kind of Gerry Anderson, knowledge or connection, take me back to early days. Where does that come from?
It is definitely Thunderbirds. I remember very clearly I had a VHS tape, which I think had... Do you ever have that thing where you... Or certainly my generation did, I think, where you had sort of 2 episodes of every series? So I had 2 episodes of Paddington on a VHS tape. Yeah. So I only really know 2 episodes of Paddington, but incredibly well. And I can sort of dream them. And then I had the same with Thunderbirds. I had Edge of Impact and Day of Disaster. So I can even remember.
Nice.
I know exactly which ones it was and all the stories. And I obviously saw lots more than that, but I remember those 2 very clearly. I think it must have just been floating around the house. And then the second memory I have of it is watching it on TV in the summer holidays. We had like a sort of office or something in our house with a really old TV in it, and ITV would broadcast it or something at sort of 11 o'clock in the morning in the summer holidays, and it would be their sort of throwback thing. And I remember like desperately tuning in to try and get that. And at that age, I was not very good at timekeeping, so I'd always miss the beginning. And obviously the beginning is the best bit. It's one of the most iconic pieces of television, the intro, the theme tune.
Absolutely. And the This Episode montage, which there's always a debate over whether people actually like it or hate it. Does it give away everything up front?
Yeah.
Or is it exciting? Which camp are you in?
I don't know. Because I don't ever remember... I don't know. I love it now. I definitely love it now, but I don't know whether I ever sat down thinking like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen in this episode, because I see what you mean. But I think it's a really exciting, it's such bold storytelling. Like, I mean, so much of Gerry Anderson shows are really, really bold in the way that they tell stories and the way that they were filmed. But I think the beginning of Thunderbirds has got to be like, that you've got to teach that in film school, as the countdown and the music and the way you introduce the machine. It's just brilliant. I absolutely love the intro.
It's weird how iconic and important that is for people as a viewing experience, and also how that music grabs onto people. Did the music
definitely
grab you?
Absolutely, like, yeah. And there's nothing really like it on television. It's old Hollywood film orchestra. That's really the only place where we hear orchestras nowadays properly, in commonplace. If you don't go to go to see the symphony and stuff like that, most people, an orchestral soundtrack is from Hollywood films. It's rarely in television, and that kind of march. I did hear the alternate theme tune that I think was never used, which is very weird, isn't it?
The Flying High
Yeah, that
song.
one, yeah.
Yeah,
I can see where they went with the other one. It's a good choice.
It was not one of Barry Gray's finest. So when was it on TV and when would you have been watching it then?
That was in school, so it was, it must have been like 10, 11 that I was watching it on TV.
What year would that have been roughly?
So like 2000, like early 2000s.
Yeah, okay, so that would have been the 2001 repeats on BBC, I guess.
Would it have been right? Yeah,
watching.
Yeah.
So contemporary to that, I can't remember what was on TV for kids around then, but a lot of stuff which was very different to Thunderbirds, and yet you still watched Thunderbirds.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Well, I didn't like a lot of kids' TV. I didn't watch an awful lot of TV as a kid, actually, weirdly, which is why I work in TV now, because it's like a rebellion thing. I wasn't allowed to watch any television. So I went from that to like The Simpsons, and that was kind of that level that I watched. But Thunderbirds, but then I never thought of Thunderbirds as being kids' TV or not, and I still don't really. I mean, the next time I watched it was I was buying DVDs or watching it online or buying like weird special edition things on eBay. Like I've got a really big red Super Mario Nation box set thing with comics and DVDs and stuff. Yeah, I've got that, and I've also got the other thing I have actually is I don't have my Tracy Island anymore, but I did have one of the big Tracy Island toys, and I have 3, and I still do have 3. The Thunderbirds 1, 2, and 3. Like the big supersize like plastic toys. They're like missing all of the little people and stuff like that.
Of course, it's because they're well played with.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Recently,
they're all lost
probably.
on missions. I imagine. Yeah, they're all up on my shelf, and I have a Thunderbird 4 in my fish tank. This is so nerdy. Sorry,
this is great.
Why am I telling people?
This is exactly why you're here. Because the people who are listening are like we're all the same. I've got Thunderbird 1, 2, and 3 in my bag right now.
You're pointing down. I didn't know what you were pointing at.
My bag is down there. I promise. So okay, so you really are, and also I know. I mean, this is probably breaching some sort of GDPR thing, but you've also pre-ordered the Thunderbirds Christmas jumper. I noticed. I thought you were just being polite tweeting this is great.
As soon as you tweeted it, I was like, I absolutely need that. I mean, I have a really big collection of Christmas jumpers that has just amassed over the years. So it's actually not as special a thing as you think.
It's special to me, so thank you for that.
It's going to be great. Definitely wearing that this year. It's going to be good. Get the Thunderbirds out. Let's get them on the desk. I want to see them.
Okay, fine. Well, I will get the Thunderbirds out. But tell me, though, like, obviously, the way you talk about not really watching kids' TV and you watch The Simpsons, which is a bit more grown up, and you don't see Thunderbirds as being a kids' show, there must be elements to it that make it feel more grown up, because a lot of people see it and go, oh, well, it's puppets. I mean, puppets now are really negatively associated with being kind of old-fashioned kids shows, but it was never made to be like that. So why did it not feel like a kids show to you?
Well, I didn't have any association with what puppets were, because I think that's like an older generation for me and for you. Like puppets were really old school, like back in the day, like Muffin the Mule and things like that.
You can go back to Andy Pandy.
And I mean, I suppose there was like Sooty and Sweep and stuff on the TVs, but when you watch it, it's so serious and it's all grown-ups. So these are great. I don't have these. These are really, it's all grown-ups in Thunderbirds. Like there's very rarely any children in it, and it's nearly all adults doing adult things, like looking at, and then when there's occasionally a bit of light-hearted joke or humour, it's still a kind of like a wry, witty sort of like thing. It doesn't talk down to kids at all, and that's the only thing that feels childish about it is potentially the pacing. But I think that's more of a 1960s thing than it is like, and also the nature of the production, because didn't they get something on a good day they'd film 2 minutes worth, and of course you have to, if you finally set up this flying thing, like you're going to use that footage as much as possible for I mean, if they tried to do more shots per episode, it would have been, I mean, it was the most expensive TV show at the time anyway, per episode, and to try and spend even more money, I'm sure Lou Grade would have sanctioned it, but they already felt like they were kind of splurging his money on this ridiculously lavish, like a huge gamble show as well. I mean, I know the shows have come before it, but that's still, it just seems that it could flop so hard, that premise, that concept. It's such an adventurous premise, this rescue, kind of this family who go around rescuing. It sounds bonkers on paper as well. When you read it, you're like, what is this?
Yeah, when you try and describe it, I've got loads of bits of documentary footage of Dad being asked, what is Thunderbirds? And then he was quite quietly spoken, so nothing was described with any bluster or excitement. And when delivered kind of flatly like that, it does sound really ridiculous. A millionaire astronaut lives on a private island with his 5 sons, and they have rescue vehicles, and they go around rescuing people. Okay, I mean, but Lou bought the premise, and they made the show. I'm really glad it didn't talk down to kids and stuff, because I mean, now kids' TV is so laser focused and tries to appeal so much to that age group. They want kids characters of the age of the viewers in there, and yet Thunderbird still. And I don't think that's not something that's changed generationally, where where, when we were kids, we wanted to see grown-ups and kids now want to see kids.
Yeah.
So it's weird that works so well.
It was just a really interesting combination as well of it's that plus the realism of the puppetry and the model making. There's something you do really feel like you can reach out, and the weird kind of dissonance of it all looking incredibly convincingly huge, but at the same time you feel like it's tiny. It's almost like a model village fascination as well that you get. I mean, also for me, because I just had a specific... It felt like the show that was made for me. It was probably the other way around, and I was moulded more by the show, but the kind of the machinery and the launch sequences and everything like that was just exactly down my street for like what I love. Because I wanted to be an inventor for so long when I was younger, and I would draw endlessly when I was a kid, like all sorts of things, like just like launch pads and hangers and that kind of Wallace and Gromity type thing as well. It's exactly what fires the imagination in kids' brains, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Wallace and Gromity stuff inspired by
exactly. Yeah, no, it's the other way around. It's all come from Thunderbirds. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it's great you kind of start thinking about it, how many things have come from that, and also how many people have gone into entertainment and various other jobs. We're always talking about it on the podcast.
It's just iconic. Yeah,
the influence it's had.
There's a Wallace and Gromit short that I saw recently I'd never seen before, which is they made loads of different shorts that are just little inventions that Wallace and Gromit make, and they sort of do things. They're only a few minutes long, and one of them's like a little launch of like Thunderbird 2, except that it's not Thunderbird 2. It's like a little shopping cart, and it goes down to the shops. And it's like a drone, and his little pot plants fall down by the side of the driveway and stuff like that. It's really good.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that. I'm going to
I'll
go
send
and
it to you.
look
I'll
it
send
up.
it to you.
Awesome. There's so many kind of inspirational bits and pieces. So you love the models. You kind of, I hate to use the phrase, but it is fair. It's like toys come to life thing. You feel like you could hold that thing. Well, and you can. It's a slightly misshapen Thunderbird 2 I've got here, but
the difference, I like this one because it almost looks a little bit dirty as well, and that was the other thing, was that because the genius of the model, well, maybe, but that's what made all the models look real and huge, was that they were dirtied up so much, and every single like crack and crevice in Thunderbird 2 had this like rust stain coming out of it, which like it looks like they were really badly maintained, the machines. Like you have to question what.
Well, there's only the five boys and brains.
On the other hand, I also have so many questions, and still do have so many questions that I would ask you if I thought you could possibly answer them, but I don't think there's an answer to.
I mean, we can try and make up some answers, Alex.
I want to know how the whole setup got set up in the first place. How did International Rescue begin? How did these enormous hangars get built inside an island that's a completely secret organisation that like there's only the family plus a few people on the outside who seem to know where it's from? Are there loads of bodies of like builders in the sea that they like what's going on?
That has been suggested. Yeah, I mean, to maintain secrecy, having brought all those people together to try and build this base. I mean, really good NDAs or gagging orders, or I don't know. I mean, there are comics which tell the story.
Yes.
Of Jeff on his last kind of missions as an astronaut, and I think in the story he gets stuck on this island as part of his training.
And the plane crash. Then he gets left on the island as like a training exercise, and then like his wife dies, and he obviously goes through a really tough time, and then he tries to find the island again and crashes on it, and that's when he meets Kirano and his daughter.
Nice.
Well, so I didn't get this from reading the comics. I did this. This is a classic thing that I always do, is that I get really into a TV show or a film universe. I don't do the like committed nerd thing, which is then like read all the comics or whatever. I then go and read the Wikipedia, not the Wikipedia page, like the wiki that's been made for that franchise.
Yeah.
And like it's always made by amazingly dedicated fans, and it's just like it gets you straight to the info you want, which is like, I want to see schematics of Thunderbird 4, like show me the cutaway diagrams, and like that's exactly what Thunderbird has, and it's so good. Is that you? Are you one of the contributors?
No, that's not me. There are people who, I mean, relatively speaking, I know nothing about many of the shows, right? Just because I've watched them and enjoyed them, and I've seen most episodes, most of the shows, and many of them multiple times. Yeah. But there's something when it's dad making it, it's like it's your dad's thing. I guess
if you're kind of around for most of it as a kid as well, it's like it's by like definition, like it's ingrained as the least interesting thing. So you have to work quite hard to get over that.
In a weird way, well, because I was a big Doctor Who fan as a kid, which Dad described as the greatest tragedy of his life. But there's something about it just kind of drives you away. Like your parents aren't cool until you realise there is something cool about them later on. So anyway, so I'm definitely not encyclopedic in my Thunderbirds knowledge by a long way, but the people who run those things are amazing. Can I recommend to you our Century 21 Tech Talk series on YouTube?
Oh, really?
You can learn about the vehicles.
100% going to watch that. So I did. This was later on when I want to say that I had them as a kid, but let's be honest, I didn't. I bought them as an adult. They were cutaway books, and I wish I looked up the name of the guy. I think his name was Graham Bleethman. So I think that was possibly one of the first fan letters I wrote, was to Graham Bleethman. Really? I had tons of his books. most of which were Thunderbird ones, and I was just blown away by his ability to Thunderbirds is logistically like pretty well put together. Like when Thunderbirds 1 is sitting here and the pool is there and the house is there, it tends to all fit together under the ground, but it doesn't need to when you're filming the series. Yeah. And Graham Bleethman has this amazing ability to draw cutaway diagrams that look like that's the most realistic way that it has to be that way, and these pipes have to be here and this fuel tank has to be here. And I don't know how he does it, but he also makes up, there are cutaways of vehicles and there's just hundreds of components inside, which obviously aren't real because like Thunderbird 3 was probably just drawn as like a random shape for a cool looking rocket, but he makes it look like that's like genuine science in there. It's incredible.
Yeah, no, his illustrations are well loved by Gerry Anderson fans across the universe potentially.
Unsurprised, yeah,
big time. So dare I ask, have you got a favourite Thunderbird vehicle and character?
Oh, it's really hard. It used to be Scott when I was younger, but I don't know. I think I love Lady Penelope. I think
really,
yeah. I think she's so cool. Like, I think she's so funny. Like because it's like that. It's that ridiculous caricature of kind of British humor of like, I really remember vividly her she was getting like a drink and. Like it gets like she's drinking it and it's been poisoned, so Parker shoots it out of her hand with like a gun coming out of the front of the Rolls Royce, which is just the most insane idea to save somebody's life. And then she's sort of completely unflapped by it and sort of like, oh, I was rather enjoying that drink.
Yeah, she barely flinches.
Yeah. And I think it's the double act because he's actually the worst butler in the world. Like, doesn't he like bet off one of her vehicles at some point in one of the films?
Yeah, he loses the boat, doesn't he?
He's constantly drunk.
He gets drunk in the kitchen with Cook. And...
His and Cook's relationship is quite great. Like, I really like that little subtext going on there, and they're just really funny as a duo. I really like them, and I like that they're quite separated as well, and they sort of have their life. And she works for MI6. Like international rescue isn't really even her main deal. That's like a thing on the side. Yeah, she's like a spy.
She's got multiple interests. Yeah, a lot of fingers in lots of pies.
I think that's just the most amazing character. No, I do. I think my favourite Thunderbird is probably 2. I always used to like Thunderbird 1 because it was blue, and when you're a kid, you have a high association with colours. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, it's the blue one. My blue one has to be the favourite because I like blue. But I think it's Thunderbird 2. I know that's probably everyone's answer, isn't it?
Weirdly, it's not everyone's, but most people's, and justifiably because it is cool. Is it? I mean, is it the modular aspect with the pods that grabs you?
It was the launch sequence. I think was so cool. Like there was so much more going on there. But then I don't know. That's the same with Thunderbird 1, so it's hard to choose. I tell you what, actually, what I really loved was Thunderbird 5. The shape and the design of it, I think, is like it's a beautiful space station. I think it's the nicest space station in space fiction that I've seen because so many of the modern ones are sort of too realistic, and other ones they're all over the place and they've got big spinny things and like it's basically a house in space. And I read somewhere that it was designed off the roundhouse, which is where Thunderbird 3 launches off, because I think Gerry didn't like any of the designs that they come up with, so eventually they just sort of said, we'll just use that again. And he didn't like it very much, I think. But I think it's a brilliant, because it's chunky and it looks like it should be floating up there and it's doing something exciting.
Yeah. Well, exciting, just floating there.
Yeah, no. The shot that really is stuck with me. And the other thing is I do a bit of directing for QI and I do a lot of editing and graphics, and I take so much away from shows like that, and everything I watched in my childhood I always sort of steal from. But there's the beginning of a lot of the launch sequences when the drums start up in the soundtrack and there's this fantastic panning shot away from the Earth and then Thunderbird 5 comes into view. It's just one of the most brilliant pieces of directing. I love that shot so much.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic.
And the music for that kind of electronic whine, the squealy whine.
Yeah, like the theremin-y type thing. Yeah. And those drums, which are basically like that. I think that's another kind of thing where Hollywood has taken inspiration from Thunderbirds of whenever in an action adventure spy film they sort of cut away to a mission control where people are running around with papers and there's computers in a darkened room and government officials wandering around somewhere and they ticker tape what the location is on the bottom. They've always got that kind of drum kind of like sound effects on like soundtrack underneath it. I think that definitely got to come from Thunderbirds as well, right?
Yeah, I'm sure. Inspiration all over the place, and people like Del Toro and others say they take inspiration from Thunderbirds. George Lucas.
Well, I think that's the model making thing, right? When they made the key to making all the models look realistic, again, it's like making them look really dirty and old and putting the imperfections in. That's what stops it looking like a toy.
Yeah. But that was one of the many kind of inventions, I suppose, of Derek Meddings, who's the lead effects guy. Before that, every kind of spaceship and sci-fi craft in the 50s and 60s was
too white,
bright silver or white or perfectly clean.
Yeah.
And that was an amazing step towards realism. Things like that, and the dust coming out from beneath vehicles and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're fascinating. And explosions too.
And so much of it is filmed on a high frame rate, right? So that they could slow it down. So we're watching slow motion footage for most of these shots. And didn't they have a special kind of water? Am I right in thinking they had like some oily water or something that made
detergent or something in the water to stop it foaming,
and to make the ripples look smaller, so that it looked like there was more water or something like that.
I mean, all sorts of amazing tricks. The foundation of a lot of practical effects stuff that's still done right now.
Yeah.
Most of the kind of the effects guys in the UK industry, certainly until the early 90s, mid 90s, had cut their teeth in the AP Films and Century 21 studios, and they're just amazing people.
Speaking of teeth, I read somewhere that Thunderbird's puppets will have 4 teeth because that's as many teeth as they need.
Just in the front there to be then covered by the flapping lip. Yeah, I'm sure some of them have got more, but was that in Fab Facts, that book?
Possibly.
Yeah, I think it was. I'm just waiting for you to drop some.
Sorry, there's
Thunderbirds facts.
My nice QI Thunderbirds facts that I want to get out somewhere. I think they're great.
Let's just leave Thunderbirds behind for a minute, because that's if you've got the Super Marination box set, then that means you must have some awareness of the other puppet shows. So any other favourites in there that stick out? Anything from childhood?
So the other one that I did watch was Captain Scarlet, which was like almost too grown up for sometimes. Like for me, not too grown up, but like I genuinely felt like I wasn't supposed to be watching it sometimes because it was quite dark. Like so much of it was really dark.
Lots of murder, lots of puppet death,
and in tone, it was just again the intro and the outro sequence were like iconic, and that music at the outro music and the paintings, those amazing paintings that were sort of, I can't remember how many there were, but he was in a different perilous situation.
Yeah, it's like 8 or 10, I think, Ron Embleton paintings. They are awesome. But I mean, lots of people have said this. I always wanted to see Scarlet in those situations in an episode. I was waiting for the one where he's like, drowning in toxic glue.
Because they look like clips from something. Yeah.
Or he's, being, sunk down with sharks swimming around. I mean, they would be great stories.
Yeah.
But never happens.
But I like that when you've got secondary material that pops up in shows. There's more. It's as if there's way more to the show than they're even showing on the TV series, which makes it feel real.
Yeah.
And the very beginning of it with the alleyway and the torch and everything really scares me. Like, scared me. It doesn't scare me anymore.
You sure? Yeah, that's not now.
Maybe I was watching that when I was even younger then. But again, like great launch sequences with the planes and the angels and it's great.
Yeah. I mean, the Angels. Well, I suppose the Angels and Lady P are kind of elements of those shows which had a lot of foresight.
Yeah.
In putting women into main roles, really. I mean, their ace flying team in Spectrum were all female.
Yeah.
So I think that's maybe one of the reasons they still kind of feel relatively modern despite the 60s.
Yeah, definitely.
pacing.
Yeah, I mean, like they could be, like if you look at other shows from that period, they could be absolutely unbroadcastable now, and they're not really. And that's pretty. A lot of that was down to Sylvia Anderson, I think. Right? She rewrote, I want to say, Tintin's character. I think made her more involved as a scientist and things like that in Thunderbirds. And she, apparently all of the characters she wrote out were incredibly detailed. Like she wrote down birthdays and star signs and had that reflected in their personalities and things like that, which is amazing.
Yeah, and they were all put out in little packs from ATV or ITC with all the details and stuff. Yeah, but except they were
why do we need this?
Yeah, I know, it's amazing. But they didn't put them out consistently, and even now there's still the debate over whether Thunderbirds is set in 2026 or 2065. You got a view on that?
I like to put it in the future just because I like to think that it's still possible that we're going to have some of those elements in the future. I don't like, it's a bit like sort of Back to the Future when that was set, in 2015 in the second one? And I'm like, well, we didn't get any of that stuff, did we? So
no hoverboards and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
Shame. So Thunderbirds and Scarlet, big ticks for those two.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of Stingray. I had a friend who had Stingray videos, and I go around and watch them at his house. But he was quite, he's not my friend anymore. He was quite spoilt, and we always had to do what he wanted. And the kind of thing was like, I always wanted to watch a Stingray episode because I was like basically there to watch something of his, mainly Stingray.
Yep.
And he always wanted to do something else. And we always had to do what he wanted to do because they were his toys, it was his house. That was quite annoying. But
Holding a grudge there, Alex.
yeah, it's much. Yeah, definitely. It's much blurrier show for me. But I remember half of it's very Thunderbirdsy with the theme tune and the shooting through the water and building the really unnecessary like buildings moving around and going up and down. This is like, could you not just have all the people move the floors? Like is it necessary for the whole building to move up and down? Seems like
it looks cool.
It looks so cool. Yeah,
I think that is part of the magic of all the shows, isn't it? Is the sort of willful over complexity.
Yeah,
of
definitely.
Everything.
Yeah,
I don't know why that is so cool and exciting, because it takes away from the realness in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
but also seeing the moving parts and stuff.
It's the key. I mean, that is absolutely. I mean, I'm being a bit facetious because that is the absolute draw of it. You're totally right. Because also the puppets look really stupid when they walk, right? So that's why Scott Tracy has to stand and be brought to Thunderbird 1 instead of just walk along a bridge because he looks so stupid. Yeah. But there was also like, planes don't come out of hangars. Hangars move away from the planes. Is like a great Super Mario Nation logic, I think, that kind of pins down. That's why it's more interesting. And the buildings are always shaped exactly like the things inside them.
Yes. Yeah. With the Zero X hangar, I'm now thinking with the door dropping into the floor, and then the hangar wheels away. And then it's kind of, again, why you would have to bring all these different elements together and add a nose cone on and the lifting bodies. But it's just so beautiful to watch it all come together.
It's a fun thing. And it's like it's a Simpsons intro, isn't it? If you can have a central launch sequence of some kind, then you can reuse that 2 minutes in every episode, and you've done 2 episodes of every series done.
You say it was filler.
Yeah, it definitely 100%. And but again, that's TV that's good for kids. It's got a bit of repetition and familiarity.
The best kind of filler. Yeah. Okay. Well,
yeah.
Do you know what? There's more obviously coming next week, part 2 with Alex Bell. But even after we finished, because we were kind of running out of time and he had a thing to go to and I had a thing to go to, we were having such a nice chat that we still went for a quick pint in the pub opposite their offices.
Great.
And actually had a really good continued chat about entertainment in general more widely.
Yeah.
And it was really, really interesting.
Yeah, nice.
So thank you, Alex. If you want to follow Alex on Twitter, he's at Alex Bell.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to follow QI on Twitter, I think it's at Wikipedia. QI-Kipedia.
Crikey. Yeah, good.
You'll find it.
Yeah. Nice. And always so lovely to hear such enthusiasm as well, isn't it? I mean, that's why people love Rael over the past couple of weeks as well. And now to hear from Alex. Just their enthusiasm for this stuff is lovely to hear, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's weirdly similar intensity of enthusiasm from fans of all ages, all generations, which is so nice.
Yeah.
It's not like a certain generation only kind of found the shows to be engaging and exciting in a kind of throwaway way. Do you know what I mean? So much contemporary kids telly, even over the last 20 years really, has kind of passed people by. They watch it, they consume it, and they just kind of go, oh, well, that was kid stuff.
Yes.
But all these people, it's really stuck with them.
Yes.
And that, again, is a testament to the quality of Gerry Anderson Productions.
Yeah, absolutely. Quite right too. And you're allowed to say that.
I am. But I'm sure our Positrons agree.
Yeah, of course they do. Yeah, great.
So thanks,
How lovely
Alex.
to hear from Alex.
Yeah, and more next week.
Brilliant.
And after that, I'm not really sure. I've got a few people lined up, a few interesting potential people to chat to.
Yeah, well, so have I.
Oh, have you, Richard? How's that going? Because obviously you've made various promises and failed to deliver
you say
on
promises.
any of them.
No, they weren't promises as such. They were just avenues to explore, weren't they?
How's that exploration going?
Well, I've got a hold of Gavin Robertson, which isn't a bad catch. Many of you will know that Gavin Robertson and Andy Dawson originated the Thunderbirds FAB stage show, which toured the country for about 10 years on and off, I think.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting story about how it all came along and how it happened and what it did for them as performers. Certainly brought them to the public eye, lots of appearances on Blue Peter and things like that. So I'm, literally, after we finish talking today, going to get on the train and nip into London to meet Gavin to talk about the whole Fab Thunderbirds FAB thing. So there we are. All right?
I will look forward to hearing from that.
Happy now?
You've saved yourself from being thrown into the pit of peril.
Thank you. Yeah. Great.
No, that's very good news. And if you've got any suggestions, Positrons, do remember, just email us podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. I'm going to try and also get some more people who worked on the shows, a few more actors. It's kind of tough because there aren't huge numbers around. They're spread all over the world, but we're working on it.
So, I'm going to be working on someone over Christmas as well.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Is that a secret, though?
I will keep it a secret for now, because it might
just in
not
case
happen.
it doesn't work out. Yeah, okay. Okay, well, something that's always guaranteed to be delivered on time every week without hesitation, deviation, or the other thing from that radio show. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely without repetition.
Yes.
Is Chris Dale's incredible randomizer.
Yes.
What is the randomizer, Richard?
Pardon?
What is the
What do
randomizer?
you mean, what is the randomizer? Surely you should know by now it's the part of the show where Chris introduces a random episode from a Gerry Anderson series and sits down, gives us his comments and thoughts.
Great. Well, should we just let him do that then?
I think we ought to.
Here he goes.
Okay. Right. I spy with my little eye something beginning with W, I guess. Oh, don't roll your eyes. I know we've done W before, but look, it's either W for water or S for sky. Oh, hello everyone. Well, you join us today, somewhere in the middle of the ocean. I'm not sure which ocean, but you see, What? Oh, okay, yeah, I wanted to try a little experiment because it occurred to me that throughout all 48 episodes of Space 1999, we never once saw an eagle land anywhere that had water. It made me wonder if an eagle could actually land on water without sinking. Anyway, long story short, it can't. Which is why Marina and the randomizer and I are now in a life raft drifting who knows where. Okay, Marina, your turn. Yes, you spy with your little eye something beginning with... No, see, we've already had S. That's sky, isn't it? What? Well, what else have you seen that begins with S?
Ahoy there! This is Captain Troy Tempest, World Aquanaut Security Patrol. Identify yourselves.
Oh, hello, Troy. Yeah, it's Chris Dale, and of course you know Marina here.
These waters are off limits to unauthorized traffic. Climb aboard your boat. We'll have to take you in for questioning.
Boat? What boat? We haven't got a... What, you mean the life raft? Oh, what's that, Marina? Okay, you spy... Oh, sorry, the randomizer spies something beginning with P? Well, there is a lot of water around, but I don't think either of us have... Oh, wow! What a fantastic ship! Yes, well, we'd better climb aboard. And while we're aboard, we may as well review it. Here's new Captain Scarlet with Proteus. So here we go, time for some more new Captain Scarlet on the randomizer, and I always love seeing this show come up on here, much like with Joe 90. The show just is such a happy experience for me, and because it's such an underrated show, I just love any chance to sort of push it, promote it, anything to get people looking at it more. So yeah, really happy to see this come up today. And of course it's from the second season of the show, which was just getting better and better by the week. So by this point we're into some really impressive stuff on the CGI front, with this huge battleship cruising along the ocean, the Proteus. Stealth ship just
Destiny, I've lost the target.
I know, me too. Maintain course.
My plane has the word Destiny written on the outside. I know. It happens a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Fiedler.
I actually watched New Captain Scarlet again quite recently, and that was one of the things that always bugged me, was the in the CGI, the sequences of the angels, when they're in the Falcons and they're flying, characters speaking with each other's voices, having the wrong character's name written on their helmet, on their plane, and it happened from the first episode right the way through to the end. But there we go, it's just one of those things they didn't have much time to deal with, I guess.
Prepare for attack.
Camouflage. Now.
The angels are tracking Proteus, but ooh, it's just gone invisible.
Colonel White, we've lost Proteus, sir. It's crazy, but she's disappeared.
Very well. Return to base. Congratulations, Captain. A very impressive demonstration.
Thank you, Colonel.
It's one
Managed to flummox Destiny. Very few people have managed this great feat, Captain.
Sub and dive when the enemy comes calling, but we can...
I'm cruel to Destiny, but
And
there
how
we go.
exactly do you perform that trick, Captain Holzer?
Sensors in the hull scan light reflecting off the ocean. Photo chips in the superstructure mimic whatever they pick up. Hey presto.
So as well as the CGI models, the model vehicles becoming more detailed and sophisticated, we're also at the point in the series where some of the human guest characters look not 100% realistic, but there's so much more detail on the face. And like this captain, his cheeks, he looks old. His skin looks very real, and his cheeks look sort of,
Captain Scarlet and
I don't know, sort of almost lightly kind of acne scarred or wrinkled or something. But yeah, that and the sort of stretch lines on the neck, the attention to detail on some of these guest characters is just superb.
The other side won't know a thing about it until it's all over.
And he's showing off Proteus's missiles, which have a lot of. Got a lot of missiles, has the Proteus.
Why don't you just show me this one for now, Lieutenant?
Sure.
And this is also going to be an episode that very heavily focuses on Lieutenant Green, which is always a good thing for this show to do, because Jules de... Is it Jules? How do you pronounce her name? I heard it recently. Is it Jules de Jong? So good in this show. So fantastic.
Ship's brain, this is her heart.
And you heard it just there when the Lieutenant, what's his name, was flirting with her, and there's that sort of that note of amusement in her voice. She's so good in this. They're all good in this.
What is it?
Maintenance drone. Mav runs them. They take care of everything from the plumbing to the power plant.
Just ignore the fact that it makes the same noises as that killer robot you encountered on Mars last year or whenever it was.
You should see our system on Skybase.
I'd like that. Your computer and mine? I bet they'd have really cool microbytes.
Can I take a look at its circuit boards?
Sure.
Oh, you should be arrested for that. I'm sorry. That's what's the term? Disorderly conduct or whatever. Yeah, you're guilty of it. Anyway, you're dead, so who cares? And the Mysterons taking over Proteus's computers. Got into the Mabra mainframe that controls the robots. Because if there's one thing you don't do in this show, it's build robots, unless you want the Mysterons to get hold of them. Oh. The computers just shut down and then they came back on all green. Oh. Very sinister.
Fiegler? What's going on?
Don't know, sir. For a second, all systems went blank. I'm running a diagnostic, but Mab says everything's okay.
Quick as you can. It didn't feel okay. Holtz are out. I'm sure it's nothing.
Where's it coming from?
Oh, could that be the quickest? There's absolutely no danger to death that we've ever seen in a Gerry Anderson show. Just, yep, he said the line and then laser through the back, and that's it. That's the end of the captain. But not the end of the robots. Yep, so the Mysterons got control of the computer controls the robots, so the Mysterons have these drone robots advancing on Scarlet and White from all sides.
We're cornered. If the others on the ship are like these, we won't stand a chance.
I'll cover you.
Now, the robots aren't particularly good shots, but yeah. Oh, they took one out. They took one out as they left the room.
Mayday! Mayday! This is Proteus. This is Proteus. We have an emergency.
Radio silence enforced. All communications disabled.
What's happening?
Oh, that's an awesome jump moment. Green just slowly waking up, and then there's a great big robot reaching for her.
Are you all right?
The Mysterons. They've taken over the cyber system.
Then they've got control of the ship.
We have to get to the Hummingbird.
Oh, Colonel's been hit. Colonel is down.
Colonel!
Come on, sir. You can make it.
So Lieutenant Fiegler, well, we'll call him Lieutenant Feeble because he's chickening out. He's running away, stealing the Spectrum helicopter before Scarlet and Green and White can get on it. Not quite sure why they left it open and unlocked for anybody to stow away on, but it didn't do them any good because, bam, shot down.
We're trapped.
So that's the whole crew of Proteus dead now, of course.
Skybase. Come in. This is Lieutenant Green. Spectrum is red. I repeat, spectrum is red.
Ooh.
No good.
We don't often get to say that line on either version of the show, in fact.
His body armor absorbed a lot of the energy, but it's bad.
We've got to get him to a medic.
We'll have to do more than that. The Mysterons haven't taken this ship to go on a pleasure cruise. Proteus is heading for a target. Question is, what?
Oh, and putting it all under automated computer control seemed like a good idea. This never ends well for anybody, does it?
Come in.
What's the problem, Lieutenant?
I'm not getting... no, wait.
Oh, come on. You can forgive Lieutenant Silver a bit of you being a bit unfamiliar with control. She very rarely turns up in this show. I think this is her...
Everything's fine.
third appearance, or in production order, it's second appearance. She's in Swarm and briefly in Touch of the Reaper as well. Otherwise, I think that's it for Lieutenant Silver.
Stand by, Captain. I'll contact you when we leave.
Very well, Colonel. Skybase out. Looks like they're making a day of it.
I also like in this show that they hinted at a couple of times in the original series was that Scarlet could be left in charge of Skybase, Blue could be left in charge of Skybase.
Be careful. He doesn't stand a chance without you.
Yes, he does. He's got you.
And here we touch on something that, again, I think has only happened once in this show, and only happened in the original series in one of the mini albums, where you have a situation where Lieutenant Green has got to protect the Colonel, and it's such a rare moment for two characters who have so much interaction in both the Super Marionation incarnations and the CGI one. They're constantly in the same room as each other, constantly talking to each other, but they very rarely go on missions together. And CGI Green saved CGI White back in Contact, I think, and Super Marionation Green saved Super Marionation White in one of the mini albums. I want to say it was the fourth mini album, and it is an interesting change from the norm to have the junior officer looking after the senior officer. And it does, I think, point to, okay, this is a superior and a subordinate, but these are also two people who genuinely care about each other. And I would have loved to have seen it on screen in the Super Marionation era, but I think it's done really well with the CGI characters in this one. Anyway, Scarlet has got out of the medical bay. Green has barricaded it up, and he's now trying to make his way to
You can kill me, Scarlet.
the bridge to deal with the Mysteron captain.
You can't stop her.
Where are we headed?
200 miles off the Mariana Islands, there's a warship carrying the president of the Chinese People's Republic. Like Proteus, it's a new ship undergoing sea trials. Not so advanced, of course.
You're gonna destroy it?
The Chinese won't see us coming. But later, they'll find plenty of evidence of the American Crusader missiles that sank it.
I'm also wondering how much this episode, as much as I enjoy it, was inspired by Tomorrow Never Dies. Because, I haven't seen that film in quite a while, but didn't the baddies in that have a stealth ship and they were trying to start a war with China? It's not a huge element of this episode, but it is part of it. But it's great that maybe that served as the germ of an idea, and then from there, Phil Ford was able to develop it into this Mysterons take over the ship, Mysterons take over the robots, and Green is looking after White.
What about you?
Scenario.
The Mysterons are planning to kill the Chinese president and trigger a world war. There's only one way to stop them. You've got 5 minutes before I blow Proteus out of the water. Your job is to get the Colonel clear. You must get him back to Skybase.
Understood, Paul.
Good luck, Serena. And watch out for those drones. Scarlet out.
And something else that's quite interesting in this episode is compare some of Green's facial reactions in this, the look of fear in her eyes and on her face, to the same kinds of expressions that we saw in in Homecoming. And they're still not 100% lifelike, but there's so much more improved. There's so much more expression and emotion in the eyes and in the face. And yeah, she just moved there from fear to determination. I love this show. I wish this show could have gone on. But I also love this incarnation of Green as well. As much as I love the original, I do like the CGI one as well, because she is strong, she is resourceful, like where she just, one gun wasn't enough to take down the robots, so she's just stolen the kernels as well. Now she's got one in each hand. She is also clearly inexperienced in terms of field combat like this. And she's just having to learn it as she goes along, and it's carried very well in the performance, but it's also carried very well...
Say hello to the junkyard!
Okay, forget everything I said. This show sucks. No, we're done. It's all over. Cancel it. Throw it away. Oh. Well, despite that, why did they have to keep doing that in this show? Those kinds of lines?
Target in range.
And I just... And it's always at a moment where I'm like, this is absolutely beautiful, perfect, it can't get any better, and then it's just... Mr. President. Oh, one-liners like that. No. And that's probably the only flaw I can find in this show.
Nothing out there but tuna.
See, even that, I don't know if that's meant to be funny or what, or just an odd line, but that works. Say hello to the junkyard, though. Oh. Anyway, Green has made it to an escape pod with the Colonel. While Scarlet has got 2 minutes left to defeat Lieutenant Microbytes, or whatever, who has also been taken over by the Mistrons. And looks actually very similar to Scarlet. The torpedoes are loading up. Ooh, pointing upwards. Getting ready for launch. I suppose actually, having said that this episode focuses quite heavily on the relationship between White and Green, it's kind of odd in that sense that the Colonel is unconscious for much of it.
Target in range in 1 minute.
But yeah, it is just so great to see Green in this situation, having to protect a man she admires against these impossible odds. Oh, and a nasty unseen death for Lieutenant Microbytes there. Scarlet just lobbed him into the path of a torpedo launch tube, and he got crushed. An off-screen death, actually, which is quite rare for this series. Usually it wasn't afraid to show a bit of blood and guts, but there we go. Anyway, Green and White, they're out. The escape pod is away.
Target in range in...
And they're safe.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Scarlet's cut it very close. He's put mines on the torpedo launchers just before they were due to launch. And the whole ship is going up. And here comes an absolutely gorgeous shot as the Chinese see Proteus emerging from its stealth cloak, on fire and exploding. It's lovely. And this show didn't always do CGI water especially well, but by this point, I think they'd really worked out how to do it, and oh yay! That is such a supremely cool moment of Scarlet leaping out of the way of the oncoming explosion. Again, though, it's one of those images that defines the CGI Scarlet as a master of just-in-time escapes. To the point where it doesn't really matter if he's indestructible or not, because he always gets out of any situation. Anyway, he's slightly oddly swimming to the escape pod. Back to Skybase.
Checkmate. You always leave your counterattack until the last moment, Scarlet. In chess, that's too late.
You should try being more impetuous. I hear it's good.
You're looking well, sir.
Thank you. I feel like I've been hit in the back by a wrecking ball. But I understand that I owe my life to you.
I just did what I had to, sir.
You acquitted yourself well in the field, Lieutenant. You've earned promotion to captain.
Oh,
What do you say, Captain Green?
Oh, she looks so shy about this as well. Shy and awkward.
Sir, but if it's all the same to you, I'd rather stay a lieutenant. I'd rather stay with you.
And I rather hope that was what you would say.
And that rather creepy expression from Colonel White brings us to the end of Proteus. I kind of wish they'd let Green be promoted this close to the end of the series, but it's one of those things that could disrupt the episode order if they're shown out of sequence. Anyway, that was a really good one. Not the absolute highest, but certainly a really solid episode of New Captain Scarlet. And if you haven't seen it, it's available for free right now on the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel, so you have absolutely no excuse not to say hello to the junkyard.
Thank you very much, Chris.
New Captain Scarlet.
We know Chris loves New Captain Scarlet.
Yes, and with good reason.
Yeah, and most of that was good. A couple of cheesy lines, never mind. They always happen in New Captain Scarlet from time to time.
Yeah.
But quite cool. Cool tech.
Yes, absolutely.
Although somebody did point out when Proteus goes invisible, its wake disappears, and how does that work? And that's but I'm sure there was some device which was like a wake cancellation and wave generator.
That would be the WCWG.
Yes. Well, then if you look on one of the screens there is a button for that, so it clearly is activated. Yeah. Anyway, if you want to watch Proteus, you can watch it for free anywhere in the world on the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel, youtube.com/Gerry Anderson TV.
Great.
Or just search New Captain Scarlet Proteus on YouTube, and you can watch there in full glorious HD to let us know what you think.
Lovely. Well, that's great. And Chris will be back next week with another episode from another series.
I suspect so. I mean,
yes.
Almost certainly.
Yeah, as he launches into another day's worth of randomizers.
Yes. Yeah. Goodness, imagine when he's got a week's worth.
I know. I dread to think how long. I mean, we'll both be very old by then, won't we?
No, Richard, no.
It's essentially 7 times what he's got now, isn't it? So 7 years.
Well, gosh, yeah. Well, it'll be more like 10, because we're over a year old, so...
Yeah. Anyway... Yeah. On that thought, now Robert Monk has got in touch with us over on Twitter. He wants to know, Jamie, I wonder if you can clear this up. Can you have a bit of a clue as to the when the Thunderbirds' Christmas jumpers might be arriving? He says he has a family photo shoot on 16th of November.
That's too early. Too early. End of November, early December is when Christmas jumpers are coming in, but they are sold out now.
Yeah,
that's it.
Great.
They're all gone.
Of course they are.
Amazingly. It's crazy. Yeah, well, don't worry, Richard. You and I we're on the list. We've got some.
Oh, see.
So you and I can wear matching jumpers.
Oh, God. Going steady jumpers. How lovely.
So sweet. Yes, there you go, Rob. I hope that answers your question there. If you've got a question, please get in touch with us. Podcast gerryanderson.co.uk, or tweet us and hashtag Gerry Anderson Podcast, or tweet us directly
at I'm Jamie Anderson or Richard N. James.
Thank you very much, Richard. Sorry, one day I'll be able to say
You'll have the courage, yes.
Or I'll just change my Twitter name, maybe.
Yeah, could do that. Yeah.
But that does bring us to the end of this week's Gerry Anderson Podcast, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So, should we just go and do our things? You've got to go and interview Gavin.
Get my bag together.
I've got endless spreadsheets to do.
Of course you have.
The really fun side of producing. Yeah. And we'll be back for more Gerry Anderson Podcast in Pod 74 with more Alex Bell next week on Monday, what will it be, 11th?
I don't know. We don't normally give the date at the end.
Of November? Well, I'm trying it, Richard, for the first time. Not that it matters, because you probably won't listen to that on the day of release anyway. If you are listening to this on the day of release, they will see you tonight on Fab Live. And otherwise, we'll speak to you next week.
Yeah. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
So where are you meeting Gavin?
Well, he's doing a show in Tottenham Court Road, actually, in London.
What show is it?
Oh, do you know? Well, that's something I'm going to ask him. I don't know much about it.
You'll have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I might even try and sneak in and have a look while I'm there.
Yeah, he should give you a comp ticket.
You'd
surely.
think so. Does he know who I am?
It'd be rude not to.
He probably doesn't know who I am, to be honest.
Well, hopefully we'll do after the chat. We'll do say hello to Gavin. I haven't seen him for ages.
Yes, of course. That's right.
And I've got very happy memories of going to one of the early shows. Must have been 1989.
Yeah.
Can't remember where, but they had a big launch press night. And I just remember the sea of people wearing their cardboard Thunderbirds hats.
Yeah, lovely.
Entire foyer packed full of fans wearing them. It just was an amazing thing to see as a 4-year-old.
And have you still got it? And can you wear it for Fab Live tonight?
No and no. I'm
Disappointing.
sorry. Maybe we could make some.
Let's do that.
Yeah, okay, fine. Right, I'll get the coloured card and the scissors.
Yeah.
You bring the sellotape.
Great.
Let's see if we can make some hats.
Yeah, well, look forward. It's a brilliant idea. Let's do it.
Okay. Cheers, Richard.
Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?